morning, boys and girls. We're finally at lesson 10.6. We are also doing our 5-question warm-ups with measuring. That's also on Google Classroom. So I think we're getting stronger. We're looking pretty good with measuring to the nearest inch and half inch. And again, a 3rd grade standard is taking it a step farther and measuring to the nearest quarter inch. So this is a great tool in this lesson. I'm tempted to say, cut it out and hang it on your wall after, because it's really important. It shows you in a very organized way, easy to follow way, how the ruler is divided. And again, this is why we did chapter 9. Chapter 9 is a great transition into chapter 10, because we were learning all about fractions in chapter 9. And the ruler is just like a number line using fractions. So notice 2/4 here. 2/4, and in chapter 9 we learned about equivalent fractions. 2/4 is the same thing as a half, right? 4/4 is the same thing as a whole, which is your 1 inch. So we start at 0, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. Okay, that's what each of those lines mean. Now, we also call these a 1/4 inch, half inch, right? Or 2/4 of an inch, and 3/4 of an inch. And then 4/4 of an inch is just a whole. Okay, so that's kind of a breakdown of what that means. And just kind of remember that fractions and measurement go hand in hand. All right, so we are not doing the entire lesson 10.6. I mentioned on Google Classroom we're skipping the line plot problems. They take a lot of time, and I believe that we can get more out of this if we just focus on the measuring questions. Line plots, and I did do those, so I'll briefly go over it. The line plots is going way back to the beginning of the year, I believe chapter 3, where we were learning about graphing. And a line plot is just a type of graph to show data, and we use X's for that. So you kind of go over, okay, this is how many lines up here were 1.5 inches. This is how many were 2 inches, or near 2 inches, right, nearest. So those I don't want you to stress about, because we're doing all of the other 5-question warm-up work each day with this to feel really solid about it. So, all right, let's go on in. We're measuring this glue stick to the nearest half inch. So line up the left end of the glue stick with the 0 mark right here. The right end of the glue stick, left, right. The right end of the glue stick is between the half inch marks for 2 and 2.5. So here is where it ends. And then put a little star there. And that falls between 2 and 2.5 inches. Okay? So the length of the glue stick to the nearest half inch is actually 2.5. If you had to choose 2 or 2.5, it's closer to the 2.5 one. Think of it like rounding. So you're kind of saying, all right, it's closest to the 2.5 mark. Ideally, it would be great if everything we measured went exactly to one of the lines on the ruler, but it doesn't. Sometimes they come right before the line or in between a line. And in that case, you're gonna measure to the nearest half inch or 1/4 inch or whatever the worksheet calls for. All right, so this one we're measuring a paper clip to the nearest 1/4 inch, lining it up to the 0 here. I made a lot of notes on this one, so it's kind of messy. Funny story, I recorded this video already, and the whole time I forgot to hit the play button, and I think I was close to 20 minutes in. So yeah, that's how my morning is going. So here we go. I said if I'm measuring it to the nearest 1/4 inch, it falls between 1 and 2/4 and 1 and 3/4, or 1 and 3/4 of an inch. So here's that 1 inch mark. Here's where I'm looking at. Here, it's between these two lines. Here's the 1.5 mark, 1.5 mark, 1.5. And here is the 1 and 3/4 mark. Can't really see it because I drew a line on it. And here's where the paper clip ends. So it's between 1 and 2/4 and 1 and 3/4 of an inch. Yeah. And now if you had to choose which one it's closer to, it's closer to 1 3/4. All right, so we're not doing at all page 594. Number 2, measuring. You need your own ruler for this one. So here's mine here. We're measuring to the nearest 1/4 inch. So I'm lining it up. You want to be really careful with this. Sorry, someone's mowing the lawn outside. All right, so when I line it up, I can see that, remember, this is a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Also notice that my ruler is got a lot more little lines between each inch than the rulers on this page. Okay, rulers are different based on how many lines they have on it. So mine's just a little more detailed than the worksheet one. However, this is our 1/4 inch mark, 3/4 inch. Yeah. Ah, grr. Man. Okay. So it's 4 3/4 of an inch for that pencil. Now this one, I'm going to briefly describe it. What it wants you to do is measure these lines here using your own ruler. I said 3 and 4 optional for you on Google Classroom. Now when you measure it, be careful. This one's saying measure to the nearest 1/2 inch, and this one is saying measure to the nearest 1/4 inch. So once you do that, you're going to get one of the lines that's closest to a 1/2 inch. I believe that's this one. Right, if you kind of look closely here. Yep, 1/2 inch. This one is closest to, let me line that up better. Okay, so that one is literally perfectly 3/4 of an inch. However, we're not measuring to the 1/4 inch, we're measuring to the nearest 1/2 inch. And so that would be 1. So that's why I have it, one of the lines for there. This one is exactly 1 inch. So that's 2 lines out of here are 1 inch. So if you continue to do that, you can kind of plot the lengths of the lines. Okay. Again, 3 and 4 are optional. I really want us to just master using the ruler and measuring rather than making graphs, because we've done a lot of work with line plots way earlier on in the year. We did a lot with graphing, so we're good on that. Number 5 is, again, we're using the data from this line plot. So in a nutshell, we have a bunch of magnets, and this is the total magnets, right? All the X's represent the number of magnets. There's a magnet that's 1 inch, 2 magnets that are 1.5 inches, 3 magnets are 2 inches, 2 magnets are 2.5 inches, and so on. So it says, Tara has a magnet collection from places she visited. She measures the length of the magnets to the nearest 1/2 inch and records the data in a line plot. Are more magnets longer than 2.5 inches or shorter than 2.5 inches? Explain. So first you have to count how many magnets are longer than 2.5. Don't count these because those are exactly 2.5. We want longer than 2.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 magnets are longer than 2.5 inches and 6 magnets are shorter. So all the ones that are shorter than 2.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So more of them are longer than 2.5 inches. How many magnets measure a whole number of inches? And how many magnets have a length between two whole numbers? So when something is between 2 whole numbers, that's talking about 1/2 inches. 1/2 inch, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. And whole numbers are, 1, 2, 3. So the ones that are whole numbers, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whole number, 10 magnets. Remember, that's a symbol for number, just being a little bit quicker. And then the ones that are 1/2 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it says, explain why you think the line plot starts at 1 and stops at 4. And it's because all the magnets are at least 1 inch long and they're all shorter than 4 inches, right? There's none that are less than an inch, and there's none that are greater or longer than a fourth, or 4 inches, sorry. Number 8, we're measuring this pencil to the nearest 1/2 inch. And when you do that on the ruler, make sure it's really lined up here, you get, oh, it wasn't lined up correctly, 3.5 inches long. And explain how you measured the pencil. You can literally write that you lined it up at the 0 mark and it ended at 3.5. So that is the lesson for today, 10.6. We also had, again, that 5-question warm-up on Google Classroom. And a lot of you are continuing to do that extra credit each day where you're measuring random objects around your house and you're sending me what you came up with. That is awesome, and continue to do that for that extra practice. So I look forward to seeing you later, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.